Hold on to your butts.
Don't move, you're surrounded by armed bastards.
What are we going to do?
Well, I say let's get out there and twat it.
Hello, welcome to the Cabin Night Podcast. I'm Jake.
I'm James.
And I'm Rob.
And today we're going to be talking about streaming services and the rise of Bingeworthy TV. But before we do, I'd like to invite you to grab a drink, make yourselves comfortable, and enjoy the discussion. Okay, where do we start with this one? I think because for me, looking into this subject, I became aware of it very, very late. Or rather, I was only aware of it later on in my life rather than younger. I don't think when we were younger, we had streaming services as such. Well, we certainly didn't have streaming services.
As it came via fax, no, we didn't.
Yeah. I mean,
Pigeon post for you.
Yeah, they didn't even have TVs when Rob was little, or electricity. But
they did. It got one in an alleyway out back, and all 5 families had
you
to
have to put 10p in it.
Yeah.
I remember.
Just a random thing, just while we're going on with this. Do you know originally, Joe, when TVs and radios were first being made properly, Joe, I can't what company it was, they tried to make a gas-powered radio. Yes,
a
gas-powered radio. And this is one of the benefits of, you'll be slightly warm while listening to it.
I've always picked when he's drinking to something funny.
Well, you know what? He drinks a lot, so he's going to have it. It's inevitably going to happen.
So I suppose, at what point did you become, not necessarily aware of like Netflix, because that was like a gradual thing, it was a thing and it built in popularity, but when did you become aware of people binging TV, or something that someone maybe mentioned at school and they had to get home to watch that next episode? Was there something for yourself?
I mean, when I was a wee bairn, also known as a teenager, I don't remember, it wasn't really known as bingeable TV then. It was, I suppose, must-watch TV or just something you had to watch. And again, I watched it later, but I suppose the big thing for me within my mates, it was Buffy. Everyone had to watch Buffy. Everyone, you know, I remember going around to a few friends' house a couple of times, and it's like, oh, we've got the new series Buffy. It wasn't the new; it was just a new one that had been released on video. That's how long ago video. And we'd go around and we'd binge watch Buffy because they used to release them like part 1 and part 2. Like they got part 2, and I've not seen part 1. So suddenly starts halfway through season 2, and I'm going, why is Angel bad? What's going on? What's going on here? Who's he? Who's the guy with the hair? You know. So I've no idea what was happening, but. Yeah, I suppose that's the first one I remember. I'm not saying it's the first one I encountered, but it's the first one I can remember happening.
Yeah.
Because Buffy was sort of one of the first. It's the first one I remember being a big kind of, oh, this is different. Oh, this is interesting. You know, especially for our generation rather.
Yeah, because it was teen, but not.
It was not
teen.
I suppose.
At the same time.
Yeah, I suppose it's what has now become things like Teen Wolf and Riverdale and the new version of Sabrina. It's that kind of aimed at young adults, but Buffy wasn't necessarily for young adults at the same time.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Especially, well, maybe sort of the early season where we're still in high school, but as it sort of went on to college and became adult, I mean, I suppose it grew up with the audience. I suppose it could be argued, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The not necessarily the subject or the theme of the thing that you just said. So Buffy, but I always found Buffy where the story arcs were, and I'm not a Buffy fan, so correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
But the story arcs didn't seem as meaty as what you would consider today, or what would be flagging up on Netflix as a binge-worthy.
No. I think you're right. I think that's mainly because of the way the American. We mentioned this in the sitcoms episode. Is that it's the way Americans make television. It's you know, here's 20. You've got to make 20 odd episodes. Yeah. The actual story arc is only about maybe 8 episodes. So you've got to put a lot of filler for all intents and purposes. Episodes in between. So you've got right. So at the start of the season, we'll have 1 or 2 episodes setting up the plot. Right. Then we'll have 3 or 4 episodes of filler. Oh, the plot kicks back in again now. So it's that kind of thing. Which, but not just Buffy, but a lot of TV of that time, I think is a victim of that style. And TV isn't so much that way anymore, especially because the Americans, everything's based on their seasons, so it's got to be so long. But they've started to come to the realisation, if we tell a better story over a short period of time, that's why there's a lot more American series now that are a lot shorter.
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones was the one that really popped up, but Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad had, I mean, the first season was cut short by a writer's strike. Actually.
Well, I think that was the big turning point. I think was the writer's strike. I think that made a lot of people go, right, okay, we need to really condense what we're doing.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, yeah.
Rob, what was your?
I think I must have mentioned this before, but I think for me, Friends was that one because I
suppose, yeah.
I thought you was going to say Friends, and it just feels like, and I'm not saying you're wrong because it's your opinion.
Yeah.
I know it's totally subjective, but it feels weird for a sitcom to be binge worthy because we've talked about it. But like Only Fools and Horses and Red Dwarf, I love them. You know how much I love them. I talked about them before on the podcast, but it was never a case of right. I have to watch another one. I have to watch another one.
My Red Dwarf especially. My dad had Series 6 on video.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it religiously around and around because at one point Series 6 was all I ever saw.
Yeah.
So. And I watched religiously back. I'm sure it was the same with Friends for you, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, there was also Frasier at that time, but I think I missed the start of Frasier, whereas I caught on straight away with Friends. So Frasier wasn't the binge-worthy bit for me. Friends was, but now Frasier is also one of them things where if I watch it, I'm watching it back to back, and I'm going through and I'm watching them all. The one that really started it for me, where I had to get to watch the next episode, and if anybody told me what happened before I got a chance to listen to it, they were getting something put somewhere they didn't like. It was 24.
Right,
That to me was the binge-worthy start.
I think that might be one of the
because
first.
every episode, somebody died, got shot, something blew up.
Spoilers.
I'm not saying
who you've attempted to watch several times
I've
and you're not going to watch.
Yeah,
but
every episode there was that.
Yeah.
No, I think now you said that. I think I do remember vividly talking to people and they're going, "Oh my god, I take because obviously back then we had tapes to take. So people go, "Oh my god, I've taped 2 or 3 episodes of Back to Back of 24, so I can watch them all together, so I can watch the next one straight away."
It was really funny because when me and Emma got together, I said to her, the subject of 24 is probably not your cup of tea, but if we start watching it, you will make me put the next disc in. And we'd sat up till 4 in the morning, like we'd just finished a disc, and she'd go, "Does it get any better? Does there something else happen?" I go, "Yeah, do you want to put next one?" "Yeah, let's put the next one in."
But I stopped.
Oh no, she was ready to put the next one in. She just wanted to know that if it was worth putting that next disc in.
See, she was already hooked then.
Yeah.
She was already hooked. See, for me, I watched 2 discs and I was going, I'm not hooked. And, if I've in so it's 24 hours, so what, 4 episodes of disc. If I've in theory watched, I'm terrible at maths, 8 hours out of 24, what's that? Is that a
4 hours. I don't know.
8.
I am also terrible at maths.
8 hours is the third. You watched the third of the season. 8, 16, 24.
So, yes, thank you. Boom, quick maths. There's a reference no one's heard in a while, isn't it? Man's not hot. Anyway,
Please stop.
but yeah, so I'd watched a third of the day, and I was going, I'm not hooked yet. If I'm not hooked by this point, then
See, I don't think, going back to your point on the put filler episodes, I don't think 24 did.
No, I don't think it did.
There were episodes where they needed a big sort of plot line, but then what 24 used to do as well was kind of halfway through the season, they'd kind of come to a point where we've about wrapped this up, we've about done it, and you're thinking, well,
There's several hours left.
and then something else happens.
Well, cool, yeah.
And you go, okay, we're all right, we're all good.
It's an interesting one because Dexter, again, without giving too much of the plot away, there was always in every season the prolific murderer, the one that they were hunting, that the story arc murderer. But then in between all those episodes, Dexter were catching low rent criminals or whatever, other people that had got off. But he always managed to catch and kill the big serial killer in the second to last episode.
Yeah.
You just think, okay, so he's or she's dead. What's going to happen in the last episode? And that's generally when all hell broke loose anyway. So yeah, for me it was a weird one because I was aware of it, but I didn't watch it until many years later, and it was Lost. Lost was the first one that I remember garnered that sort of excitement from people.
the first season did especially.
They went head to head 24 and lost.
Did they?
I'm not saying from the not from the very beginning, but there was a point where they were both big TV series going head to head.
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't mean like on different networks, but I mean
They were the two big.
You were like a Lost or you were a 24 kind of person.
Okay.
But they were out at the same for a portion at the same time.
I don't remember that.
It's interesting because I mentioned already about the comedy side of it, and I don't consider probably any comedy series to be binge-worthy, just in my opinion.
Oh, no.
Because, to me, because I watch everything with Becky...
Yeah.
And she's got this thing where if we're watching something quite heavy or big or whatever, she wants to watch something more light-hearted on the side. But if she's really into it, she doesn't want to start another series that's sort of like more drama. Or
I get that.
So if it's something that she would be happy watching alongside a drama, then I don't consider it binge-worthy, because it's not one where you're not gonna. It's almost like splitting your. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Pants?
Splitting your difference, yeah.
Oh, I love it.
It's like splitting your alliances almost. It's like, no, I'm dedicated into this. I'm invested in these characters, but I don't want you to disturb me with these other characters. So that's why I would never.
I feel it's a different type of binge you're doing with a comedy show. So, that's, for example, Red Dwarf is the one I've probably binged the most, but it's in a very specific context. So, like, if I'm not feeling well or something like that, or I'm feeling particularly out of it, particularly down, I will just go, right, well, I'm going to start at the beginning of Red Dwarf and just see how far I go until I feel better. And I will just watch them and I'll feel better. So it's that kind of binge rather than going, oh my God, I'm invested in the story. I need to know what happens next. It's a different kind of binge, I think, compared to things like Lost, 24, Breaking Bad. It's not the same. You're not binging it to find out where the characters are going next. You're binging it because you're going, I've really enjoyed this setting. I've really enjoyed laughing like this. I'm going to watch.
I do that with.
I used to do it with Scrubs. The first couple of seasons of Scrubs I used to do it with. But modern one I've done it with is Ghosts, the BBC one. I've watched.
Yeah, we didn't binge them, and we watched them consecutively, and night after. But again, we watched them in conjunction with something. I can't remember what, but we watched them in conjunction with something else because they were the light-hearted thing that you watch just before you go to bed, as opposed to the heavy high drama that you watch.
Yeah, I suppose as daft as it is to sound, it's easier to binge something that's heavier. It's easier to binge something that you can get your teeth into, make you feel something, make you think something, make you just go fucking hell. What happens next? It's much because it's that hook. It's something that grips you in rather than a light-hearted comedy that just can almost wash over you. And it's like I say, it's a different type of binge.
Yeah, we watched quite a few series during lockdown. Well,
I think everybody did.
What else did you do?
I think a few people got the message saying, "You've completed Netflix. Now what will you do?"
You've now leveled up.
Yeah. Amazon Prime went, "Oh, now you're here."
I got the same message on Pornhub.
It just went, "You're Red Raw. What are you doing now?"
We
Please put some lotion on.
We watched Superstore, which is.
Yeah. Again, that's not a binge-worthy thing.
So I don't really know anything. I don't really know
It's
Superstore.
just an American.
It's an American sitcom. It takes place in like a Walmart, a Costco type.
A nerd herd.
Like it's like a Chuck, but
Is it?
but without the nerdy bit and all that sort of stuff. But we watched that. We started Kimmy Schmidt again. It's another comedy one, but we didn't go on with that.
You were looking for shorter episodes at the time, just when Elias had been born, though, weren't you?
Yeah,
and stuff that you could.
For obvious reasons, I think you wanted shorter episodes. Yeah.
I mean, I've watched The Fall on Netflix, which is about a serial killer in Ireland.
Okay.
And I can tell you what happens in the first episode because it doesn't give anything away because it's the first episode. It starts with him doing a killing, so you know straight away who the guy is. And you as the audience know who the killer is. Okay. And they bring Gillian Anderson, she's the main detective on the case, they bring her in to catch him. But you know who he is and you know who she is. So it's how they find each other.
Oh, and that does sound interesting.
It's a British one, so it's only got I think like 6 episodes a season.
But I feel like I have heard of The Fall.
Yeah.
Well, I think was it on BBC?
I think it might have been on BBC. Yeah, but that would be I watched that, and that were another one where I went right. Strap me in for 6 hours because I'm watching this season here. This is me. I'm made for this.
Oh, you can tell TV now is getting more and more for streaming services because how many times you watch something on BBC or ITV and go, well, that's the first episode done with. If you want to watch more, they're all available online. They're now making TV designed to be watched straight away and to be watched in big bulks.
What I find weird, like such as Netflix, though, is there was one I started watching a few years ago called The Ranch, and it's Ashton Kutcher, Sam Elliott, Elisha Cuthbert, James Masterson. It's pretty much the ones from that 70s show. So, Ashton Kutcher,
right, yeah.
James Masterson was the cool 70s guy with the long hair and the sunglasses. It was him. Wilmer Valderrama comes in it at some point. Both their mum and dad come in it at some point. The only one that isn't in it, I believe, that I've watched it on, I don't think Mila Kunis comes into it. She's about the only one that doesn't come into it.
Probably too expensive by that point.
Probably. But
it's not related to that show.
No.
Just happened to be.
It's about a ranch owner. So Sam Elliott plays the dad. He's a ranch owner. He's got 2 sons, Colt and Rooster.
Does he come with subtitles? Because that guy needs subtitles.
It's quite funny. It is quite funny.
Can you
But
hear
it's
what I'm saying to my
Sam Elliott is just he hasn't changed his outfit in about 40 years. He just walks from set to set, exactly the same.
way. But it's how to explain it. It's supposed to be a comedy.
Right.
It's supposed to be one.
No,
That does not bode well.
no, it's very funny, but it's almost like true to life. Like there's real true storylines. Like there's one of the characters loses a baby. One of the characters has a heart attack, and it's how the comedy works with that. Their mum has a bar and they lose the bar at some point and they get it back, and they want to buy this ranch next door. There's always true life things, but it's set in a comedy setting, and it's actually filmed before a live studio audience, like all the old sitcoms were.
So it's got those real moments of pathos.
Yeah.
And it's, which I think, Fools and Horses were masters of that. Really, they were masters doing that pathos.
It's very much like that in the sense of you can put yourself, unless you're on a boat going to Ajax or whatever it says when he's going to.
Take the good times with the bad
Yeah.
times, aren't they?
It's very true.
I think that's why people relate to him, because it is though they can see themselves.
Yeah.
They can see themselves in them. I think
They did a weird thing, so they released it in parts. So they released 10 episodes. There's 8 parts, and there's 10 parts. 10 episodes to a part. They released 10, waited 6 months, whatever, a year, released the second part, waited 6 months, a year, and released. So you got them in the style of the old. You had to wait so long to get them all, but here's all the episodes you need for this season there, and then kind of go on that way.
Okay.
It's really good. Yeah, I fully recommend that one. Definitely.
Do you have is there a film series that you binge?
Talking about when you're ill, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
If I know I'm going to be in bed all day,
I mean, that's
that goes on.
Doesn't get old. Lord of the Rings. It's still.
Is it a binge though? Because the first sort of time I became aware of the usage of the word binge was during the binge drinking craze. So
I haven't really stopped, really, has it?
Well, yeah, people necking can after
Yeah,
can after can, whereas Lord of the Rings, it's only 3 films.
Yeah.
It's just one really long drink. 3 really long drinks.
You can say that about a TV series. It's just one long. It's just one that tells one story.
Individual episodes, aren't it?
It's individual films. I mean, if you've got the extended version, it's 2 discs per film. So you got to get up.
so
you got to get up and change the disc every few hours. Like a TV series, you got to, every 3 hours change the disc.
Well, I went to see the new one last night, but Scream, I can't watch 1 without watching 2 and 3.
Okay.
Because that's one story arc to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are 3 separate films, but it's one story arc. 4 is what it was supposed to. It was supposed to start a new franchise and kind of go a different way. So it's different. That gets finished in them 3. So I can't watch Scream 1 without watching the other 2. I've got to watch all of them. There's not really a film. Rockies, I suppose. I don't generally tend to not watch.
Star Wars. If I start Phantom Menace, then I feel I might not always end up watching them all, but I feel like at the time I really want to.
You're more inclined to keep going.
And obviously, again, going back to the first lockdown, me and Becky had only seen up to maybe Thor 2, I think.
So you watched them all, didn't you?
Prior to lockdown, and then obviously Disney Plus.
Yeah, you
another
got all of
streaming
them.
platform came along. You got them all in one place, and we watched a different one every night, and it was absolutely.
I'm not having a wee. I'm not having a wee.
James, go to the toilet if you're doing
It's
that.
my cabin. I can do what I want.
So Star Wars and MCU would be 2 films, 2 film series that I would binge.
I don't think I could sit and watch binging all the Marvel.
I don't think I could.
All the Star Wars for that.
As good as I think I could more with Star Wars and Marvel. This isn't a disrespect to Marvel because I love Marvel, but because they're so disjointed. Like if you watch them in the order they were released, they don't really split into each other.
Yeah,
That's true. You
So
might get cameos from Tony Stark or Thor.
You'd have
Especially
to
if you
watch
watch
them in the order.
Especially if you watch the early, like up to the first Avengers, you barely get any crossover. I mean, you get little Easter eggs.
Apart from Nick Fury, he's in everything.
Yeah, but that was because it was more of a. They weren't really sure if it was going to work,
yeah.
was it? So yes, I'm trying to think of the series I would do it with.
There's one I want to do it with, but I want to watch it in the order, in the chronological order, not the order, and that's Conjuring. I want to watch all them in the order that.
The actual.
Oh, you got to start with like the Nun, haven't you, or something like that?
The Nun is
Kind of about
first.
Creation next into.
Creation. No, you're asking me. I have to create.
That door's creaking again. It's just said Annabelle, the door went.
Yeah, and then all the others.
Yeah, I want to do them in that order because that's the order in which they take place.
Yeah, so they're points in history. That order, so we've had the discussion. Completely flip it and let's talk about Wetherspoons for a moment. Wetherspoons are, I know you're confused, but there's that mentality towards Wetherspoons now is that they are the big company and the pricing out the independent companies and what have you. To use that analogy, are Netflix and Prime and things like that doing that to independent studios?
No, because I think it's actually. I think, from what I can tell, vaguely uneducated as I am, I think it's actually doing the opposite. It's giving a platform to stories and to filmmakers, TV makers, who wouldn't necessarily get picked up by your BBC or your NBC or your Fox or anything like that, because they can go, oh, well, you need a budget of £1,000. Well, all right, we'll give you a camera and £1,000. And show us what you've got.
Exclusive to us.
Yeah, show us what you've got, and then we'll put it on.
It's like Lucifer. That was on whatever network it was on in America. FX. And it was going to end after season 3. And Netflix went, you know what, there's some story left here.
Yeah.
We'll pick it up for another 2 seasons or whatever it was after that. So...
Yeah, yes. I think now it's the opposite, I mean, okay... No, Breaking Bad's not a good example, actually, because that wasn't made for Netflix, really.
It was ABC, right?
It was MAC. It's
AMC.
AMC.
It's same as Walking Dead.
Yeah, but it's quite a small network compared to.
It would have been at that time. So now it's Walking Dead.
But because of the success of things like Netflix and Amazon Prime and other streaming services are available, but
Shudder.
Spooky Netflix.
Well, no, but yeah, because it's given rise to things like Shudder that can, a smaller platform, and I'm sure they've got their own originals on there as well, haven't they? But it means they're more willing to take a chance because you don't know what the next big thing is going to be. That's a relatively modern example. And I know it's again for a network rather than a streaming service, but Outlander is quite. It's not massive, but it's quite successful. It's quite big. But before the success of, well, I suppose its nearest comparison is Game of Thrones, really, for all the boobies and all the blood.
Boobies and blood.
Boobies and blood.
Watch Outlander.
Well, yeah, pretty much. So, but would they have taken that risk if it wasn't for shows like that? And again, Game of Thrones is not necessarily a streaming service, but it's a binge-worthy series for a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's sort of like a trailblazer in that. They were the first to do it. Not necessarily the first to do it, but you know what I mean.
They were the first to do it, and with a big budget, they broke through to the mainstream.
Each episode was like a little film, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
It weren't like a normal episode where we can tell that's done on a set because they've got no money for this. Everything was done.
Well, because they dotted around the country, they dotted around restaurants all the time. It had to be kind of, it's not right. Episode 1 is this story. Episode 2 is this story. They had to. All 8 or 10 episodes, however many it was, had to basically be one story, all intertwined. I mean, because they all have their own beats and they all have their own things that happen, but they all had to be intertwined, so it was designed to be.
I guess going back to something that I'm going to keep plugging here, I do apologise, Rob, I'm not going for you, but going back to what I was saying about how I don't feel like sitcoms are, is because sitcoms generally are lower budget, smaller sets, smaller amount of actors and what have you, and like Game of Thrones, for example, notoriously big budget, amount of extras and actors and the sets and it just feels on a grander scale like that's the one that is binge worthy.
I get what you're saying, but just using a modern example, Friday night dinners, we binged that. We did properly binge that because Hayley had never seen it before, so we properly watched that during lockdown, and it was, in fact, I remember how quickly we binged it because the last series had started. And I'd watched all but the last 2 because they hadn't been shown on TV yet. And Hayley watched like the 5 minutes one and went, "Oh, what's that?" And she quite enjoyed it, and I showed her. And then we, between that point and the last episode going out, we binged the 5 series that quickly. I mean, they're only it's 5. There were 6 episodes each, 23 minutes, so it's not a particularly long series to binge. But we did because they were that funny and that well written. Like you were saying, other things, you can see yourself in them. You can see your family.
It's interesting because I think it must come down then to your taste in something. It's got to come down to taste because that's. I don't. If I've got to commit to something that's a comedy, if I'm committing to something that I'm expecting to make me laugh, I have a tendency sometimes to get 3 or 4 episodes in, and even if I find the jokes funny, I could say I watch first 4 episodes of Friday Night Dinner. By episode 4, I'm ever so slightly done with the joke. I think jaded slightly. But then if I was to say just watch the first 3 episodes and then watch episode 4 the following night, I'd be laughing like I were. I think if you have too much of something that you're expected to laugh at constantly, it becomes a bit jaded.
But you could say that about things that are constantly throwing twists at you, like
Lost.
Lot. I mean, Dad definitely did with Lost, but yeah, kind of, all right. I've watched 5 episodes and there've been 15 twists. Okay, I think I'm done now. I think I need to.
It's rare for something to be as twisty as Lost, though, isn't it?
I'm not saying it's a negative, but I think a good example or good comparison was something like Broadchurch, which not so much twists, but a lot of red herrings and misdirections, and every episode threw up a new revelation, or at least one new revelation, until you found out what had happened.
Yeah, I suppose Dexter would like that a lot, because obviously he's a good guy by day, but he's got, moonlights as a serial killer. Every single kill brings Miami Metro closer to discovering it's him. And there's some episodes where you're just thinking, how much more can he go on here, because they're literally on his doorstep. He's hiding behind doors here, and he still manages to escape.
Yeah, I think what you were saying before, not so much taste, but it's what you find. If I find a TV show, I mean, we've tried loads of TV shows. Like, I'll watch something. Do you want to watch that? And I'll go, yeah, I want to start it, and we'll start it, and then I get bored. But we'll have binged so much of it up to that point, and I'm out now. Like Flash, Arrow, Supergirl. I did that.
I mean, they're all DC, so
I did it with them all, though. I got so far.
You liked Arrow when it first came out.
Arrow?
Yeah.
Oh, Arrow was good for the first half a season, yeah.
No, first 2 seasons with Deathstroke. Deathstroke, brilliant.
I never watched the one with Deathstroke.
Oh no, Manu Bennett, I want to say his name.
Bennett, yeah. Crixus in Spartacus.
Yes, he was in Spartacus. Yeah,
Jimmy Whispers.
Yeah, he was brilliant as Deathstroke. He was the best thing about Arrow for a long time.
I had to binge the first 2 seasons of Supernatural because I got with Emma as the 3rd season was live on telly. So I remember
the first 4 were the 4 that I
watching.
Not watched any yet.
I think I'd say probably Supernatural. The first ones I binged myself.
Yeah, the first
Although
episode.
Lost was the first ones I were aware of. They were the first.
I remember watching of Supernatural was the one where they pay homage to the old monster films. So it's the Dracula storyline in it, and it's all in black and white, and they've done it like.
I think I've seen clips and pictures of that one. Yeah,
that was the first one I watched. Like, what the fuck is this? This is great. And it's like, well, it's not always like this. This is quite tame for how it is, and there's werewolves and whatever else in it. So I went back. If you got the DVDs, and I went back and watched the first 2 series or seasons, and then caught up with where we were.
It's interesting though. I remember buying the half seasons for them when they were.
Oh really? Yeah.
They did release half seasons. Yeah, Emma's got them all.
No, Hayley has deliberately waited until it was finished, and she's going to get a big box set. I said that's when I'll start watching it, because I've not seen any of it, apart from little bits. I've never sat down and watched a full episode.
Like everything, there's the dodgy bits of it.
Every series has got that.
It gets tired before it finishes.
Every series does that, though, doesn't it? Really.
Amount of times that Dean's just nipping back into it. Oh, I left my wallet in here.
We always came up with a thing. Like, you get to end of season, you go, which one's going now? Sam or Dean? One of them's going to hell, so which one's going?
And I think because of that, that's why I probably stopped watching it. Although I understand it got better later on again. They sort of refound a lot of what made it special. That sort of middle sort of 3 or 4 seasons was, it's just, like you say, it was tired.
Because the whole point was they'd always got, much like Dexter, they'd got the ongoing storyline of this is what's happening this season. We're trying to find this or that or the other. And then they'd go on a case and they'd find a Wendigo.
I think that's why I always really loved the first series, because apart from the whole Yellow-Eyed Demon arc, which when episodes without being mentioned, there were episodes where they literally just hunted and pursued this nest of vampires, or they'd just follow this witch, and they were very much self-contained, weren't they? Yeah.
Okay, well, let me throw another one on. Another modern binge-worthy one. I don't think you've seen it. I know you have. The Crown. But that doesn't have an overarching story, really.
It's just history.
It's just but that's what I mean. So from what you're saying about Bingeworthy series you like, it doesn't have that same overarching story of the plot. There's a few little bits here and there. It's like the last series was a lot of emphasis on like Diana and her rise, and obviously it's leading up to her fall.
I wouldn't say that's
series.
specifically what I liked, though. I would say...
No, it's the point you've raised the most tonight, I'd argue.
Well, no, the point I've raised most tonight about is how comedy is not, in my opinion.
No, but you were saying because it just... You get tired out of the last, but you were saying because of the development. You were saying because of the developments and stuff, whereas the Crown doesn't have that so much. It still does. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Breaking Bad doesn't, though. Breaking Bad is just the story. The arc is the story.
No, but it has that arc of something I will give to Breaking Bad. It takes pretty much the entire first season for the plot to kick in, really. Yeah. But Breaking Bad, the whole series is that arc. But The Crown doesn't have that. This isn't knocking against The Crown. I thought that was brilliant.
I suppose it fits under Bingeworthy, but it's different in the sense that it's a historical drama, really, if anything, isn't it? Yeah. Certainly, when with the introduction of Diana and the tensions right from the start with Diana and Charles in The Crown, you know that's heading the way it's heading. Yeah. So it's almost like the arc is there, but you just don't really know it.
Well, yeah, okay, the Diana and Charles stuff, because it's modern history. It's within our lifetimes, so we all know where this is going. Although one thing I will say about The Crown, got one of the most confused boners ever with Gillian Anderson, who is a fantastic actress. And you're seeing it going, that's X-Files. It's Scully rather. Scully, not Mulder. It's definitely not Mulder. It's Scully. But then she's so good as Margaret Thatcher. She's terrifying as Margaret Thatcher. You're going, don't do anything. I know you want to, but just don't do anything.
That's another one since Disney Plus came along. I started binging X-Files again.
That's a weird sentence to say, X-Files or Disney.
Yeah, I know.
It's taking us a while, to be fair, because I don't think Becky's particularly sold on it, but we're coming up towards the end of first season
I'm
X-Files.
On season 3.
But they weren't I'm not saying they're not binge-worthy, but they weren't designed to be watched all together like that.
No. Again, they are very much individual stories again.
Yeah, that's like Supernatural.
Well, yes, it's Monster of the Week, isn't it?
Yeah.
There were a few episodes a season that created one of like the specials as such. Because like I remember having the videos, not of the seasons, but of there were one called U571 or something like that.
Yeah, so they're like episodes with a theme or a set.
It was case number.
Yeah, it was the case number, but the case number might have spanned over 3 episodes, but not 3 back-to-back episodes.
Yeah, like one episode there, one episode in the middle,
and then one maybe in season 2.
Yeah.
Kind of things. So that were weird. I remember collecting them. There were Tombs that were one of them, which was the guy that
two episodes.
Yeah,
weren't there?
Tomb.
The
Yeah,
they were different.
It was in Green Mile.
Yes, he was.
Percy in Green Mile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's been ages to watch X-Files.
Yeah,
it's been
that was one of the things because I always wanted to buy the box set of X-Files. I'm like, it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, don't need to now. Yeah.
What do you reckon to the Gary Sinise years? Was it Gary Sinise who was in?
Oh, you're thinking?
You mean Robert Patrick?
Yeah.
No, Gary Sinsay. You're thinking? Gary Sinsay. I'm sure Gary Sinsay was in it as well towards the end.
He may have been, but it wasn't. It was
no. He was one of the
definitely Robert Patrick.
Yeah, he was one of the upper bod. He was one of the bods in it.
Doggett.
Yeah,
Doggett went.
Oh, it's been so long since I watched it.
He took
over for Mulder.
It was Doggett. Detective.
Yeah, because Mulder.
Special Agent Doggett.
Did he get abducted? Did he go back home or something like that? It's been that long since I've watched it. I can't. And I was so young when I watched it. I didn't really get it.
I can't remember if he thought he'd gone out there or whether he'd just completely gone off rails and.
Because obviously he then came back
for a psychotic break.
Because the season 10 that they did a few years ago, that was really good.
I never watched that. Actually.
That was really good, and they did in that what they hinted they were gonna do in the series. They made it very much about them two and whether them two may or may not get together. And you were like, won't they? Who knows? But that was another one they'd shorten the season to only 10 episodes.
But again, that's because it was a modern TV, which is people, like I say, people want quantity over quality. No, quality over other way. Flip that, reverse it. But yeah, so X-Files is an interesting one, I think, because
that was probably the first binging TV I did, but I couldn't because I didn't have the means in which to binge it. But I watched it every Tuesday night, whatever, on Thursday night, when I'm telling.
Okay, so that's. I think we've sort of only briefly mentioned modern binging, and as it is, I'd say a more modern phenomenon, if you will, because of the introduction of
Yeah.
streaming services. What's the one then? What's the one for you? Is there a one?
Again, if there's one I'm going to go back to, it's something like, it's a comedy. It's something like Red Dwarf. It's Friday Night Dinners. I can watch.
No, of a modern age. Since the birth of Netflix, what's the one? Or Prime or whatever.
It'll be one of two. It'll be one of two. It'll either be The Crown, or it'll be one that was actually on Apple TV called Defending Jacob, which was only 7-8 episodes.
Okay.
And
I've not heard of it.
It was brilliant. It was very in the same vein of Broadchurch, basically.
Grim as fuck.
Yeah, pretty much grim as fuck. Grim as fuck with Captain America and Lady Wadget from Downton Abbey.
Maggie Smith.
No, yes, Maggie Smith was married to Captain America. That was, I mean, I'd pay to see that.
I would not.
Michelle Dockery.
Yeah.
And a few other actors as well you'll recognise us from it. But it's basically Chris Evans' son is eventually accused of murder. And he is a lawyer, so he's got to defend himself. And so, in like Broadchurch, every week, a new piece of evidence is revealed, and you kind of go, oh shit, did he do it? I'm not going to spoil it in case you do watch it, because it was brilliant. But it is quite open-ended what happens in the end. But it was literally kind of, oh god, we've got to watch the next one. We've got to know what happens next. We've got to know how the story develops, how the story moves on from there. So I think, the two most recent ones for me are, either The Crown or Defending Jacob. I think they're probably the two most recent ones for me.
I think a specific Netflix one for me, which it's going to sound so weird to say it this way, but the show itself isn't particularly good. But I want to know what happens next in the episodes, and that's Sex Education.
Okay.
I've never seen
Another one
it.
with Gillian Anderson. I must have got a thing for Gillian Anderson.
What's her face? Who was in? She was the butterfly in Superworm. Brief segue.
It's a Butterfield, and he's like the main character. So Gillian Anderson is a sex therapist, and he's I think they start when he's 14, 13, 14, something like that, and he's right embarrassed with his mum because she's a sex therapist. And what started me onto it was the trailer for it. You know when you're flicking through stuff and it brings up the bit of trailer and stuff, and I think she says in like the opening line or something, "Have you started masturbating yet?" And I'm like, this has got to be a joke. This cannot be what I'm going to watch. And I ended up watching it. Like I said, it's not the best series to watch. It fell off really quickly. But I still want to know. I still want to know what's happening. But yeah, that's a very modern one, because there's a character in it that is gay but doesn't know he's gay, or he hasn't discovered it in himself. That he's gay. So it's how he comes around it. And Asa Butterfield ends up doing sex advice at school in toilet cubicles. So they put money under the door and he tells them what he thinks they should be doing. But he doesn't know, because at that point he's still a virgin, so he doesn't know what to be doing. But it seems to work, and there's loads of weird and random things going off. It's how I can imagine schools now.
Okay.
That's a one for me.
Would you not put Cobra Kai in that one? I mean, you watch that pretty quick.
We watched.
He doesn't watch. It's not on for long enough for it to be binge-worthy. That's just an evening.
Yeah. It's half an hour episode.
John watched it in one night, season 4. We watched it in 3 days. Cobra Kai. I would put it in, but I didn't watch it on YouTube first, because it was on YouTube Premiere or Premiere. What Premiere?
Was it?
Whatever. Yeah, it was a YouTube series
Not
first. That's
picked up
another
by
one.
Netflix.
That's another one. They did one season on YouTube. Or 2 seasons on YouTube.
Might be 2.
Well, 1 or 2 seasons on YouTube.
Right. I didn't know that.
And then I don't know whether they didn't want to take it on anymore, or the premium bit weren't doing as well, so they've not got the money to give to the producers or whatever. So they went to Netflix, and they've certainly done 2 seasons on Netflix.
Okay, I didn't know.
And they release 10 episodes in one go, and me and Emma
We got through first 3 pretty quick.
Yeah, so I don't count it because I've not watched it from the beginning.
Do you have to though? Because I count Breaking Bad as that.
Well, yeah, I suppose
Breaking Bad, which since I mentioned it would be mine. Would be my. You know how much I enjoyed Breaking Bad. It's a combination of the grittiness, the fact that it were a world that I'd not previously either been interested in or knew much about. But interestingly, despite it being one of my favourites, and I think probably at the top of a lot of people's list when you're discussing binge-worthy TV, it's one of them, isn't it? Like Walking Dead, or did they all sort of came out around?
Yeah, there was sort of a big glut of them at the same time. Yeah.
Despite that, I watched the first 4 episodes when I was living in London, and then didn't touch them until I moved back to Sheffield. Then I watched them all. Oh, it might have been it was still in London.
You were definitely still in London.
Yeah, but it was a good bit later. It was a good bit later that I watched the rest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought you'd watched them all before me.
Yeah, I did watch. I must have watched them before you. Yeah, because I was asking where you were. And so no, what I'm saying, my point being is, I watched the first 4 episodes, got bored, and then came back to it.
Oh,
later.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. No, my timeline was wrong with moving back to London, but it was certainly later that I then picked it up again, then loved it, and from then on I was like,
I think Breaking Bad was the master of the episodic cliffhanger. Every episode, it genuinely was kind of, what the fuck, how it was. I don't think any series has really replicated that since, that proper cliffhanger. Not even a god, oh my god, how are they going to get out of this, but just they left it on such a good note. Like famously when he's in the hatch and he's just sat there laughing when he's got all the money. Have you ever seen it?
I've not seen it, but I'm not bothered.
It is definitely worth. It's definitely worth. Even if you don't watch it all once, I think it's definitely worth. It's definitely worth it.
There's lots of things that I haven't watched that are classed as binge worthy. I haven't watched Breaking Bad. I haven't watched Lost.
See, I've not watched Lost. I watched the first season of Lost again a few years ago, and I went, "Oh, I must carry on." And I just never had the inclination because the first series was just so good, and I just
never watched it all. But
I think this goes on to next.
I enjoyed it throughout though.
Yeah, it definitely tailed off for me.
It weren't as good, but I enjoyed it throughout, and I think that's the point you invested in it. I mean, just before you do move on though, going back to Breaking Bad, I think why it would always be on the top of my list is that, again, you're talking about the episodic cliffhanger. I think it's the second to last episode of series 2.
Right.
And sorry, spoiler alert, but if you've not watched it by now, tough shit, you're too late. Walt runs over the 2 drug dealers, and one of them's still alive, and he's been specifically told by Gustavo Fring, who's the big meth guy in the area, not to encroach on these guys' patch. He's just ploughed them down in his dadmobile. He's got out of the car, and this is a massive break from the character you've seen in the first part of the story to where he's going. This is where he becomes Heisenberg, if you like. And he steps out of the car, and Jesse's stood there watching. He's just ploughed these 2 people down. One of them's crawling along the pavement, and he just guns him down, looks at Jesse and says, "Run," like that. And then that's where the episode finished. And that for me, it's gone into on my list as one of the greatest TV moments ever. Okay. For myself. But yeah, anyway, you were saying...
No, it's a different point to that. We're talking about watching things, because I just said about Lost, I wasn't, how it ended and stuff, it kind of soured me a little bit. But binge-worthy TV, or just TV in general, or anything in general, if you know how something ends, so like the big example obviously at the moment is Game of Thrones, because most people were quite disappointed with how Game of Thrones ended. I wasn't overly enamoured by it, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine, but they could have handled the same ending better, if that makes sense. So I was kind of fine with it. But because, so say you watched something like Game of Thrones and you were so disappointed in the ending, you were so annoyed with how it finished, how it went to betray the characters, or you just didn't like it. Would you then go back and would you watch it again, knowing where the journey ends, knowing you're disappointed with how the journey ends? I think it's an interesting point, because I think for me, if I was that disappointed with how it all got to, I don't think I'd want to watch it again. There are a few books I've read that I've been so disappointed by the ending. As much as I've loved the beginning of the book, I don't want to read it again, because I've been that disappointed with how the book ends. I don't want to, even though I've really enjoyed everything up to it.
Try as I might, I can't think of any TV series, book, or film where I was so invested at the start to be so disappointed at the end.
I can think off the top of my head, I can think of one example of a film I did that with, and I was so disappointed. As good as I thought the film was, the ending spoiled it. I've never watched it again because the ending's so annoying. It's Oblivion. It's a Tom Cruise film with dystopian future, and I was so disappointed with the ending because it pulled an ex machina out of his arse, and it really soured. I thought this wonderful downbeat, dour ending it was going for, and then suddenly out of his arse, oh no, all hope is back, and I kind of I don't want to watch it again because I know how the ending sort of spoils the rest of what happens. I just didn't know if you two would feel like that. If you say Cobra Kai suddenly ended with them all going, "Oh, we're all friends again," and now we're gonna.
I mean, they've kind of done that already, haven't they?
I mean, they do, and then they don't, and then they do, and then they don't, and then they do, and then they don't.
Okay, but maybe Cobra Kai is a bit too self-aware. It's a bit too self-aware, I suppose, isn't it?
It certainly is.
A bit like, okay, Breaking Bad. A lot of people say it has the perfect ending. I'm not going to spoil it for people who don't know. A lot of people say it has the perfect. I didn't mind it. I thought, again, could have been done differently. But if the last episode, Walter has gone, right, you know what? I'm going to run for president, and suddenly he runs for president and makes meth.
Now I don't have cancer anymore.
Yeah, and I don't have cancer anymore, and meth now legal and kind of negates everything. Everyone's gone, oh, that's quite a disappointing
I
ending.
wouldn't say disappointing. It's pretty out there. I'd be interested to see where that story would go.
I mean, interestingly, and I've not had it so much with it, but Psychoville, which is a little-known BBC Two series, which you got me onto actually.
That's League of Gentlemen.
It's what Reese and Steve did next, basically. Series 1 has a pretty outlandish ending, but Series 2 they went for such an outlandish ending because
It's what we do.
it's what they do, and it's such disappointing, bonkers, off-the-wall ending that it does make me go, I don't want to watch Series 2. As good as it's got some funny moments in it, but like Series 1's brilliant. It's a nice self-contained story with a nice dour ending. And Series 2's kind of, I can't, because I know where it goes and I know where it ends. I don't want to watch it. Not as much to do with like something like Oblivion, because I won't watch that at all. But I still will watch Psychoville because it still has got those good moments.
I think the one for me, I mean, I can't use it because I didn't watch the whole series, but for me, Game of Thrones, I was so invested in it up to season 3, episode 9 or 7, whichever one it was, the Red Wedding.
Oh,
That for me, if they'd have ended the season there, I'd have watched season 4. They put that little stupid filler episode in after to set up a bit for something for season 4. And I went, no.
I suppose by that point they were following the books quite religiously at that point, weren't they? So I think in the book it does happen.
Yeah.
Not at the end.
Red Wedding was quite early on.
It's about halfway through the book, I think. Is it?
But that, for me, they could have put that at the end of the season and just carried on the next season with this episode. Because they continue the story, it doesn't really matter whether it's in season 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Particularly. Depending on how true they are to the book, I suppose. But that would be the honour for me.
No, I get
that.
that.
Really disappointed me.
Yeah,
Because obviously I come from 24. Big cliffhanger. Oh shit, this is the end of the season. Right, what are we going to do? I need to watch next season now. And I didn't feel like I wanted to because they kind of wrapped it up after that. And I'm like,
Well, bringing it full circle, Red Dwarf, obviously famously, because it ended Series 8, has a cliffhanger ending.
Yes.
And they make it a running joke in the next series that they don't resolve it. That they just kind of like, oh, it just kind of happened. Oh, yes, I must have been to talk to you about that. And they kind of cut. There's always a running joke that they don't address how they wrap it up.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I suppose with comedy and something that's self-aware, you got a bit more leeway for something like that. Yeah. But I just thought it was an interesting point because as good, like, okay, a modern one like me and you watching The Crown. Okay,
you already know how that.
Well, it's interesting to see where it stops, but yeah, if that suddenly has a really crappy ending, would you watch it again? Would it sour your entire look at it? In Cobra Kai, or Scream? If they did a Scream 6. That was again. Scream's a bad example because again, that's very meta and very self-aware. So they can almost do what they want.
I've said just
watch
watch
it installations as well.
I've just watched Scream 5 and they reference. They call it a requel. It's not a reboot. It's not a sequel. It's a requel. You've got to have certain characters and certain things in it to make it this particular type. So that one is a bad example.
I'm just glad for Scream they didn't put the 5 in the word somewhere. It's got to be Scream as well.
I don't have anything that I can think of as a point of reference. If ever I've started off enjoying something, it's been pretty quick into it that I've sort of got them feelings of that I'm not enjoying it. I honestly don't think it's ever happened where I've enjoyed something up to the last bell, and then the last bell's been
I think I mean, I can think of
Penny Dreadful, and we got about 3 episodes.
I've not watched any of that.
Pretty poor throughout.
We only got about 3 episodes in, so
Bulls and Horses. I think Bulls and Horses has the perfect
original ending.
Yeah, well, yeah, it has. I think it has 3 perfect endings. Yeah. It has the first perfect ending when Rodney gets married.
Yes,
that it could have quite easily ended there. Yeah. Another perfect ending when Damien's born.
Yes.
I think nice thematic ending there. And then when they finally become millionaires. Yeah. Any one of those 3 I've been happy with, but they didn't need though. Those 3 for me as funny as some of those moments are, and some of the one-liners in them are brilliant. They are some of the moments in them are the funniest of the entire series.
Yeah.
But I think storyline-wise, they really do dampen for me some of the it dampens the ending especially.
I would say that the given story in order to continue it on is poor. Not poor, but it's almost like, well, we wanted to make more, so here's some flimsy storyline to make it happen.
That's pretty much is what happened, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but I think the ending, as in with some sort of resolution with the whole Freddy the Frog thing and Rodney's parentage and him having a child after the miscarriage, that to me the ending was good. The reasons for continuing weren't.
Yeah, I suppose.
Or the storyline.
Yeah, okay, I'll grant you that. I think the idea of them just carrying on being the Trotters is quite nice. In one respect, nicer than being millionaires and all the problems are solved. Mm-hmm. But again, it's just kind of like the ex machina of how they get all the problems are resolved in the, pretty much the last 10 minutes of the final episode, the last 10 minutes. Whereas the original final episode, Time on Our Hands, it was nice thematic full circle because
it was, but it always struck me as a sad ending to me because Dell's in empty flat and he gets that call and
it's a bittersweet ending.
I remember
me, that ending.
I remember,
but I'd say it's a good upset.
Exactly where we, as a family, we were sat all in the living room. It was Christmas. Were it Christmas Day, Boxing Day?
Christmas Day I think I mean Boxing Day '96.
Yeah,
it was definitely '96.
And there were me, my mum, my dad, my auntie, my uncle. We were all sat. Whatever of my auntie's kids were there, and their kids they didn't get any kids then, but the partners and that, we were all sat in this living room. I was sat on the floor next to the fireplace, and my mum and dad watching this ending. We'd watched all three of them build up, and to me it is so sad. I think it's almost like he doesn't want to be a millionaire.
It's not who he is.
It's not.
It's
like scrimping and saving.
It's that bittersweet ending. Kind of, he's got what he wanted, but is it what he wanted? So it's that kind of bittersweet. But it was just nice to think that they did just carry on. They got what they wanted. It was up to you what happened next.
Yeah, I think them walking off into the sunset. That was the ending.
Perfect, especially because Heroes and Villains and Modern Men were also so good, and it was a fantastic trilogy. 1, 2, 3 points. They were fantastic.
I had that box set, that video box set. Them three.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent from your Bingeworthy TV.
I think we've covered it though, really, haven't we? Is there anything else you feel like we need to?
I'd just ask a quick one because we mentioned streaming services. What would happen if streaming services ended? What would you do? Would you go back to buying stuff on?
I mean, I'll be honest. I never left.
You never stopped doing it, did
you?
I'd struggle.
I use streaming services in the sense that if I really enjoy it, I will then go out if it's available to.
Like you use for Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify. I mean, yeah, most of my CD collection is stuff not most, but a good chunk of it is stuff I've listened to on Spotify first, and then gone, oh, I really like that. I'm going to buy it. Yeah. I'd say, and not everything from Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus is available to buy. But if I do really enjoy it and it is available to buy, I will then go and buy it.
Would you miss them?
I would, absolutely. I would totally miss them. I wouldn't have the space in my house.
Why do you think we've got this? Look behind you.
Yeah. Look around.
Look around you. Look around you. But that's a good thing. Like, there's stuff like Look Around You and the Peter Serafinowicz Show. Both some of our favourite TV shows that aren't on any streaming service.
So you have to buy them.
You have to buy them. You have to buy them.
Red Dwarf's not anymore.
Has it been taken off Netflix?
Yep.
Oh, it's on UK TV Play, which is not necessarily. It's more of a catch-up service than a streaming service.
No.
But
Bottom's come off it. Fools and Horses has come off it.
I knew Fools and Horses, but it was never complete.
Fools and Horses on Sky, which is their own streaming.
But Fools and Horses, it finished after I think like Jolly Boy's outing or something like that. It wasn't the complete series.
But even the like, there's only like, I don't know, let's say 1, 3, and 5 or something like that, and then a couple of other series.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think I could live without streaming services, but that's only because I think because if something I enjoy a lot, I will then go and buy it.
I couldn't.
I certainly couldn't.
I don't have the space for it anyway.
We don't. It doesn't stop us.
But I also don't. I don't get the same enjoyment as you do of seeing my collection of stuff.
Oh no, I've always liked having the physical
you're able to see, this is my tastes on a shelf.
But it's not just for films and TV, but it is also for books. It is also for CDs and just general shit.
If I had the space, I'd have a library, absolutely.
Oh, God.
But
I think everybody's dream is to have... everyone can relate to that bit from Beauty and the Beast when she opens the door and says, oh my God, the library. Everybody goes, yes, that.
I want this. Yeah. That covers it nicely.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got one thing left to say then, and that is, you've been great. We've been Cabin Night. Good night.